It is time.
Okay, Güven Hocam, now we are live.
Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to another Bug Lab Discord talk. So tonight we have like two special guests. The team of Angelic. Actually a very small part of the team, because Erkan will tell the whole team, because it's like a huge team in many different countries, like a very international project. So tonight we will be we are having Erkan Bayol and Emre Aktuna, managing director of the like very expected Angelic, the game Angelic, and also the concept artist of Angelic, Emre Aktuna. And we will be talking about the design process of Angelic. So I think it would be a great know-how, like for the people who are already working on games, or who are studying game design or game art. So in that sense, I'm also very happy. And plus, Erkan is also our instructor and also mentor. So it's also great to have him in this session. Like, we really support Angelic, and hope to see the release of it. Maybe not that soon, but in near future. So we really believe in that game, and we will do our best to support the game. Okay, guys. So welcome to the Bug Lab Discord, and we will be moderating this session with Ertuğrul, and the stage is yours.
Much, by the way, for having us tonight. And as you said, I'm also part of Bahçe University family. And Emre is also here. He's our lead concept artist, especially focusing on environment design. But don't worry about this, because we will show a lot of visual stuff, some new stuff even from the project. And I also prepared some, kind of a brief presentation about the project. So if you don't mind, guys, I will switch directly to that presentation, and time I will cut the presentation and show you some visual stuff, and time I will ask Emre to support me during the talk. So let me share my screen first. Here it goes. Hopefully you are seeing my screen.
We can see.
Okay, perfect. So let me start with the most obvious and basic question: what is Angelic? Angelic is, as we like to summarize, 50% RPG, 50% turn-based strategy game. Of course, we have our own unique selling points, which I will quickly introduce within a couple of minutes. First, emphasize that it's also a science fiction game. Narrative is super important for us. Heroes are super important for us. So it's not just an action game. Actually, it's kind of an narrative emphasized project, because in the end, our long-term vision is turning Angelic into an IP, actually, an intellectual property. We are also aim to be a cross-platform game, but of course we will be focusing on PC initially, because we know our boundaries. Even as Güven Hoca said, we are kind of a big team, considering the startup phase, of course, but still our team, we have approximately 40 people, but even 40 people is super small when you talk about AA and AAA games, especially cross-platform games. So again, we'll be focusing on PC initially, and then move on to the possibly Microsoft's Xbox platform. It depends. So this is it. This is the super quick summary of the project. My students from game business class would know that the most important slide is actually that one, unique selling points. We have a lot of unique selling points, actually. The most important one is obviously heroes. We spend a lot of time to design our heroes. They are kind of our, main feature, not just unique selling point. Is also the main point of the game, because we believe in that players would be playing our game because they love heroes, because they want to, control them. They want to play with them. They want to learn their stories. They want to maybe, even customizing your heroes might be a good unique selling point, because we want to provide, offer a lot of customization options as well. So those heroes will be also your heroes in a sense, but of course you cannot, change their identities. They, even though you can customize them, that doesn't mean you will turn a hero into something else entirely. So heroes, of course, the most important unique selling point. Apart from, uh, being conceptually or gameplay mechanics wise super important, heroes are also super important for monetization aspect of the game, because we believe they're gonna serve two different monetization aspects of the game. The first one is obviously the main monetization, which would be, since that game is a premium one, that would be heroes would convince people to purchase our game, buy our game. But the second indirect contribution would be DLCs, actually, or cosmetic upgrades. Those DLC packages might be about cosmetic stuff. It might be about new narrative content. So heroes would play crucial roles on both of these indirect, or let me say secondary monetization models. The, the second unique selling point is combat itself, because we know in the end that's the game, and like all games, it needs some action. So we also spent a lot of time on combat, and we wanted to make it something really cool, something really fun, but also something really unique in a sense. Of course, there is a very dangerous zone, because if you want to make your game super unique, you should be really careful, because if you turn your game into something really weird, that might be too alien for your target audience. So you should be very careful. That's why we define Angelic's combat as, in its soul, it's a turn-based strategy game, but we also inherited a lot of stuff from MOBA games, from tradable card games. For example, your heroes are not just, soldiers with different weapons. They have also their own unique weapons. They have their own unique personalities, characteristics, advantages and disadvantages. So that means we are kind of different from similar games, which are, XCOM, Gears Tactics, for example, or Mutant Year Zero, one of the recent titles. We are quite different than those titles. They are all awesome titles. We all love them. But again, we wanted to make something different. So the first difference is heroes themselves, once again, because as I said, they are heroes. They are not just soldiers with different weapons. The second difference is actually the way we deploy our heroes to the battlefield. We are using drop pods. If you watched our vlog, our combat footages, you would know probably the way we deploy the units into the battlefield is quite different. It makes the combat quite dynamic, and this is really fun. When you play the game, you immediately see how different the combat itself than the similar titles, and that also something we really, believe it would contribute a lot to the title. um, Osiris, the ship, this is also one of the super important uh, aspects of the game, because as I said, it's 50% RPG, right? So apart from designing unique heroes, you need to also design some RPG features as well and implement them to our game, if you want it to be an RPG game, of course. So uh, Osiris is actually your home. By the way, Osiris is the name of that ship. It is actually kind of a massive mothership. It's a big one, but relatively it's still small if you compare it to the other similar motherships, because it's also kind of a stealthy ship, and you live in that ship actually with your companions, with your friends, and of course you would be engaging in dialogues, you would be talking with your companions, you would be customizing them, upgrading them. When they are injured, you would be healing them on that ship. So it's kind of your home. Most of the RPG kind of stuff happens on that ship. And also you would be able to customize that ship up to a point. It depends on our budget, of course. Also, the ship is, for us, the ship is kind of course, after Heroes, it's kind of the most important second feature, because we want to make that ship really cool. I mean, in terms of visual quality, in terms of design quality, we wanted to make it something really different. So it's not a generic, science fiction ship. It's kind of, it's really different. We have some cool stuff, but we cannot show them, unfortunately, to you today. But don't worry, we have plenty of cool visuals. But for the ship's latest interior design, I'm afraid you have to wait a little more. But as I said, we are spending a lot of time on that ship's design as well. Lore and story-wise, it's again a science fiction game. Actually, we have three major factions in the game. The first one is obviously humans, but even humans are quite different, because the events are happening in the distant future. So humans themselves are also quite different. For example, we have augmented humans, which we call as cybernetics. We have eugenic people, which means actually genetically modified, kind of superhumans. And we have also good old humans. Apart from those humans, we have neo-humans. And neo-humans is one of the unique parts of the lore, because they were humans in the past, but now they are not using their old carbon-based bodies, because our bodies are all carbon-based. They are actually using silicon-based synthetic bodies, and that makes them practically immortal. There is a massive conflict between neo-humans and humans. Actually, that's the main source of the conflict. But we also have the infested, to make things more complicated and sophisticated. So those infested would also play a major role in the game. And as I said, the events are happening in the distant future. The technology is quite different. Also, the Earth was dominated by the corporations. We don't have any religions. We don't have any, nations anymore. Of course, cultures are still present, but people are now members of corporations rather than citizens of a nation. They are now members of corporations. But it's also another story. So if you want to learn more about the lore, you can visit our YouTube channel and watch our lore introduction video. The long-term vision is also important, because that's the first thing we established before starting to that project. And again, my students would know the very first step would be actually this. You should be deciding about your vision, and you should be implementing or establishing that vision to your team. That's the first actual step. So don't get confused. It's on the third. It's the third part of that presentation, but priority-wise, that's the most important one. And our long-term vision actually is simply turning Angelic, again, as I said, into an IP project. And as you see, in order to make a project into an IP and intellectual property, actually need to invest a lot of stuff. I'm not talking about money. I'm also talking about details. That's why I didn't want to go to hyper casual stuff or casual stuff, because you cannot turn a hyper casual into an IP, unfortunately. Uh, in order to make your project in an IP, you need, as I said, a lot of details. You need some motivation that you can provide to your players, so they would love your title, they would love your characters, they would be willing to spend some additional money to buy to buy some T-shirts based on your game, to buy some action figures of your characters, right? In order to convince people to do that, you first need to create something that they could love, they could adore, they could respect, and then you can move on to that being an IP phase. It cannot take a while, of course. We are not saying Angelic will turn into an IP next year. Maybe it will take 5 years, I don't know, but we should start like this, right? So that's why we are, for example, uh, making a narrative-based game. That's why we are spending a lot of time on heroes. That's why we are spending a lot of time on every kind of detail. Again, since it's kind of an lecture, not just a publisher pitch, obviously, I'm adding some additional details to help you guys and remind you once again, that's the first step. But when you start a project, you should be doing this as a first step because it dictates all the other steps afterwards that comes afterwards, right? And since we knew that we want to be an IP in the end, um, we designed every other stuff, gameplay features, monetization mechanics, everything according to that grand idea or ideal. And production, of course, we are, I'm also giving game production course, and I mainly introduce Agile. So, of course, we are following Agile methodologies. But again, the first and the most important step is setting up your target audience. And our target audience is this, as you see, because it also dictates a lot of stuff related with the game. For example, your design language, your art style, your narrative style, um, even the way you design your heroes, everything will be affected by those decisions. So in a sense, that's our target audience. And some details here. We also add some additional slides. That presentation was the lightweight version of our publisher pitch deck. And we also like to show some additional details about the gameplay itself, because some publishers, it's not super important for investors actually. If that would be an investor pitch, I would remove these slides actually. But for publisher talks, adding such slides would be always useful because they would, if they are interested, of course, they would want to learn about the core loop. They would want to learn about some metagame layers of your game can provide. But of course, in the end, eventually they're gonna need a vertical slice, a playable build. And we are using Unreal Engine. So that's the main presentation that covers the basics of Angelic. And as a next step, we will show you some additional visuals, and we will talk about how we design our heroes, how we design our environments, how we design the narrative part of the game, and such. So I'm moving on to the next part. But before, do you have any questions for us? Any questions, anything?
If you want to make a break, yeah, we can have some questions right now. Maybe just for that part, which is I think a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you can write your questions at the live Q&A channel. Also, also we can have questions from the Twitch channel too.
Okay. By the way, Emre, feel free to interrupt me anytime.
Okay. All right. Yeah, your talk was really interesting, so I just didn't want to interrupt.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just these days I'm watching the last Star Trek TV show. Maybe you are maybe you already watched the Star Trek Discovery. Mm-hmm. So I'm I find a lot of in a way inspirations from there. I don't know if you are inspired by the Star Trek IP, Star Trek universe, because they, I don't know, they also like work in team. They deploy people to the planets, like they are like heroes in a way.
Mhm.
I don't know. So and it's they always like develop tactics to overcome the obstacles with like with wits and technology. So I don't know. I just want to share it.
Actually, not specifically I inspired from Star Trek. Of course, it's an
Yeah, like
amazing title.
many stuff probably. Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff you mentioned, they are pretty common in science fiction genre in general. I do watch, of course, Star Trek. I mean, movies, series, anything I can see, or I can, reach. But I didn't really inspired from that title.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I inspired from a lot of stuff. I'm fully open to be inspired from such lovely titles. But I actually mainly inspired from science itself, not rather than science fiction. I read a lot of stuff about science itself. I mean the real science, and I inspired from the real science itself because it's the most amazing thing, actually, in my opinion. But of course,
Yeah.
I also
Cool.
watch a lot of science fiction and such.
Yeah, I guess that's why I like found a connection because Star Trek is
Mhm.
yeah, in a way mostly based on not fantasy but science. Like
Yeah, definitely.
it's a very good sci-fi TV show. But do we have questions, Volkan or Arturo? Did you catch any questions at live Q&A or the Twitch so we could ask?
Nothing in the on the Twitch at least.
Okay, maybe they are waiting for the visuals.
Okay. Who's going to share
Okay,
it?
I
Okay.
will start again.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue then. Yeah, we will have the questions at the end.
Okay, so as I said, since we are following agile in a sense, and since we do love iterations, and since we are super detail oriented freaks, I wanted to show you our journey uh, of how we designed our prom art, which is here actually. Let me show you the final. That's the final version. And now I want to show you guys how we ended up like this, what kind of steps was there in the beginning, and how we step by step come into that conclusion. This is actually the first iteration. Um, how can I go full screen? Okay, whatever. So that was the first iteration. As you see, all characters are in their place, and we have some placeholder characters. We have most of the assets actually are coming from our own project, but some details were not exactly visible or clear. And now let me switch to the second one. So you see the main difference between this one and that one is there are some corrections. For example, pay attention to that sniper character's hair or that holographic face down there, because when we are working on especially prom art promotional stuff, we are constantly evaluating ideas and also developing ideas as well. For example, that character's face was not super clear back on those days, so we were also playing with some ideas. We knew that she was a neo-human character, and but she also was a third generation neo-human character, which means third generation neo-humans can also have projected faces. So we knew she would have some kind of an holographic face, but we didn't know back then what kind of exact face we would want for that character. So we were also playing with those ideas as well. And also you see we started to implement some colors. And this is also important step because it shows the color, um, how I should say, the color scheme or the color theme of the prom art in general. You see We have blue tint here, we have red tint here, and that one actually supposed to be white. So that was a mistake actually. The main character in the center was it's supposed to have white in general as a color tint. And you see slowly other characters are started to gain more personality. And the biggest difference here is you see background is mostly completed. You see the main character located in the center is now white, I mean whitish dominantly. You see we are still trying to find a suitable face for that character. See, we have different versions here. There are also some small corrections on some characters here. So you see we also add additional details on the main character in the center. And the face is for that character is now much more, you see, much more detailed. And also that sniper character's face is also now much more close to the final version, closer to the final version. Other characters' faces are also almost full of detail.
Yeah, the biggest advantage of for creating this image was our promo artist actually did know how to use 3D, and he actually knew how to do photo bashing. So it was easier for us to iterate upon the image that we previously had. So it was also easier for us to make changes.
Yeah, for example, as Emre said, that character was our promo artist's own 3D model. He had quite a similar model with our design, our hero design. So we used that character's body as a placeholder, and then we added some further details on it. So it comes much closer than to it comes to much closer to our main idea about that character. Even more details are also added here. Her face, the main character's face, is almost complete now. Background is also still under development. As you see, the ship is changed a bit. As you see, it has less details here because our artist forgot about the one of the coolest features of that ship, and then he added those features here, these golden stuff. And again, that's the final one. You see more details here. Her face is fully completed. That background was completed a couple of iterations ago. Our heroes' faces are all super clear, and they also reflect heroes' personalities. I mean, when you look at that hero or that one, you would feel their character, their personality, right? Because obviously that character is a bit dark, a bit sad. That character is a bit again dark. Apart from their faces or the details on their body, on their accessories, the colors also super important when you design heroes or any kind of character. That's why we use red here, not because they are evil characters, by the way. The surprising thing is they are all your companions. You'll be working with them. One of the hardest things when it comes to Angelic is your companions, your heroes are not your soldiers. They have their own agendas, they have their own personalities, their preferences, and not all of them are really even like you or have similar worldviews. So it would be super hard for you as the central commander of that weird party to keep them, in line, motivated, and to have them throughout your journey, because they can also leave you if they don't like you. I mean, enough, they can leave the party as well. But again, returning to the topic, as you see, all these characters can now kind of reflect their personalities, their gameplay function, plus their role play uh, function or personality characteristics as well. But the funny thing is that entire journey started like this. That was my epic photoshopping skills. As you see, it's I think it's still much more epic than that one, right?
Yeah,
Artist
the
could fake
journey.
edit.
The journey is always more interesting than the final image.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first iteration of that hero, that one. So these are all our concepts. That's also our own concept. These are placeholder characters. That's our own ship. As you see, this is actually more than enough to start the journey. All you need to, if you remember our agile game production course, lessons, lectures, you also remember that you should start simple because people can understand your ideas when you show them. I also told you guys multiple times that you should be using PowerPoint as much as possible because rather than giving them a comprehensive documentation, just show them, even with super simple, like this um, images with placeholder stuff. It is much more quicker and simpler for your concept artists to understand what kind of composition you want. Of course, um, the entire journey took a lot of time. I mean, these steps. Yep.
Erkan, I guess I'm like also thinking like at the same time while you are describing the process. In a way, at the end, I guess in a way, like your approach is also even set like a promo. Your approach is kind of like it's as if it's a movie poster.
Yep, that's correct.
Was it like that? Because in a way, like placing all the characters, they emphasize the universe, the central focus, and it's even like it's a vertical image. So in a way, I guess you were trying to catch the perception of a movie poster,
Yeah, that's
which
correct.
which I think really works because I mean we could easily say that it's a sci-fi movie, or right, which
Yeah.
which has its own community or yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And as you say, I mean, as you said, when people see that, let's say, poster, they would immediately understand that the game is about those characters, right? That's simple as that. I mean, that's why we wanted to go that way, because like movies, we also present heroes themselves as the main component of the game. So having that kind of poster was super important for us because it automatically says that game is a narrative one. Plus, these characters are the central emphasize or focal point of that title. So I think that really worked because all publishers, all people we who saw that promo art, they all immediately understood that okay, that's a narrative game. That's those heroes. They are obviously heroes. They are our main characters, and they are important. So yeah, that was what we were trying to communicate, and I'm glad it worked. Emre, do you have anything to add about that one, or should I move to the next one?
I don't have much actually. Like in the very first image, I was going to add like beginning with a black and white image really helped us to establish the whole composition. Not this one, but the one after this.
I think that one.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, it really helped us to build up the composition and like doesn't have to be a pretty image to start. It has to communicate like internally between between the team actually for us to just move forward with the current image that we have. That was what I was going to add. Like after this, like adding the colors and stuff, it's like child's play.
Okay, then let me switch to the next one. Which one? Okay, let's continue with some environment stuff. Yeah, that's the oldest one. So this is the very first concept art from command information center, or the central room of that ship, of that mothership. That's your command center practically. You are commanding the ship and you are gathering all the relative important information about your missions, about the universe itself. So that's why we call that room as CIC, or Command Information Center, which we actually inspired from Battlestar Galactica, uh, about that name and about many stuff, of course. So this is the very first concept, and actually it comes from 2016, from the first attempt of making Angelic projects, because as some of you guys know that Angelic actually kind of an old project. I wanted to start Angelic years ago. I have a different team back then. I just left Crytek and then wanted to initiate another game company. And again, Angelic, it was not that current Angelic, of course. It was a quite a different game, but of course it also have a lot of similarities. So that concept actually coming from 2016 version of Angelic. And then we iterated on that one. That's also coming from 2016. That's the second iteration of the same room. As you see, we like to play um, with ideas, and we like to make a lot of iterations first before actually starting to develop anything or making any kind of 3D assets. We like to play with ideas, and the fastest way of doing that is actually exploring ideas, actually concept art, obviously. You don't have to go that detail, that way. That's also fairly perfect. It can also give you the enough sensation about what kind of experience it can create if you go that way. But our artists wanted to add more details in order, because we believe that's going somewhere really cool. So we wanted to add more details, and then he added those details. And with the last Angelic attempt, which is the current one, we actually changed that one as well. And then we iterated that one. Once we believed that okay, that's the way we want to go, we actually iterated that one, and we uh, kind of developed, kind of produced 3D assets, kind of um, you know implemented that idea into our game. But we didn't like it because we actually, there are two different reasons. The first reason was the assets were not good enough for our taste. But again, apart from those assets, we also didn't fully like the feeling itself, um, because we are all perfectionist people. So we decided to go. We decided to make a new design, which we did. But again, I cannot show you that latest design at that moment. But it is much more cooler than this one. Uh, the reason why we can go, we can improve our quality that much is simply we are spending a lot of time and we are iterating continuously, and we are gaining feedback. If you remember, guys, especially from my lectures, um, that's simply agile mentality itself. It's not about the tools you are using. It's not about the Scrum. A lot of people think that agile is Scrum. It's not like that. Actually, Scrum is just a methodology. It's just a tool. The real stuff you need to understand when I say agile is actually this. You just need to iterate quickly and continuously. You just need to collect feedback, and upon those feedback, you should be improving your designs, you should be improving your codes, everything continuously. That's how we actually achieve these quality bars, or how we actually protect these quality bars throughout the project, and on all their on aspects. So as you see, it took, of course, it shouldn't take years. We have some special conditions. For example, the first attempt was canceled because of the military coup attempt. So ideally, you don't have such weird stuff, right? Ideally, you don't live in countries like Turkey where approximately every 2 years you suffer from a major crisis. But even if you live in Turkey, it shouldn't take 4 years. I'm not saying we did spend 4 years on that room. We just able to finalize 2 iterations on that room, and then coup attempt happened, and then the project had to be cancelled, and then I had to wait for years until I catch another opportunity. And once we restarted Angelic, we made a couple of additional iterations. And then when we feel that, okay, that's good enough, we started to iterate, we started to develop that concept. But even that was not enough. I mean, even after all those iterations, you could end up with something not super satisfactory for your tastes. So now we are again iterating once again. Um, this is also a 360 screenshot from the first iteration of the room. You see, we started again super simple. As you see, it's kind of a mobile game screenshot from early 2005 or something like that, right? But it's how we actually started. As you see, we used super low poly, super stupid assets. All of them are we just try to understand during that phase how big is that room and how the how would be the feeling if we go that way. We were iterating, we were playing with that one. Sorry, that one. We were trying to understand if the room would feel big enough, or if it would feel too small, too big. We wanted to first understand that, and that's how you should be iterating. Actually, it can be simple as that. Just go see if the room is big enough, if it's maybe too big, or if the lighting would work as you desire, as you prefer. And if you see it generally works or might work, then you can keep iterating on that. For example, after that screenshot, Emre prepared some drawovers quickly on that to see how it would look if we add more stuff on that room. And by doing these simple tricks, we were able to save up some time, eliminate some waste, and optimize our efficiency. This is also a great way of communicating with your people. As you see, again, super simple. I just used my epic Photoshop skills to to add some notes to communicate with my team, because our team's main language is English as well. And again, nothing fancy. All of them are super simple, but they are pragmatic and they really work well. Instead of trying to write documents, we can quickly iterate, we can quickly test, we can quickly feel, and then we can quickly take some screenshots, add some notes, show what we think about that level, communicate, and then after collecting that feedback, we can quickly iterate once again. You see, that's what Agile is actually, not those production boards or daily stand-up meetings. That's the real Agile, right? That's what you should understand when I say you should implement Agile mentality into your production, not the other tool stuff. It's just simple, unnecessary stuff. Emre, by the way, this is your main subject, so please take the lead from now on.
Okay. So
anything.
Okay. So the whole environment design process usually actually like concept art process just goes like very fast initially. We just have to generate some ideas and just try to hit that mark to visualize the idea that we have in our minds, or the client has, or our art director has, or our employer has. So let me share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so After I got some screenshots from the previous environment, we started like quickly reiterating upon the image that we had. We had some ideas about like what can we put in the environment and how where we can just place them and what their functions are going to be. I'm talking about the assets. And like after this we just started like quickly like sketching stuff out and just to take this stuff out of our minds to visualize them and just communicate with each other. See this? No. And after this, we got like an orthographic view of the environment and noted down what we will need, and like how they can overall can look. Yeah, and we have made some groundwork about how the environment can look and how the general placement of the assets are going to be. And then after this, I just grabbed some screenshots from the 3D model that I had. Like I made a very rough, like quick blockouts of the assets and the environment. Then I just started like quickly creating some variations of the asset models that I had. Like for example, I guess you can see the rough models that are underneath these sketches over here. Like there were some variations in there, and just after this we have communicated about like how we can just which style we can go with, and some other assets here. And with this, we also made some like very, how can I say, like we also made some decisions about like how the overall art direction is going to be in the environment in the end. And like these are the farthest that I usually take the whole 3D models, that which also helps our 3D artists as well. And like if as a concept artist, you just have to have a knowledge about how all the other softwares that are being used by the other modelers or your team members, like from Blender to I don't know, like 3D Code or some other like rendering softwares. Even Unreal's getting like very famous in the concept art industry as well lately. For those who want to do some concept art, I totally recommend, like, just try to just open your Unreal Engine and just drag and drop some stuff and just try out like how things are working. I made this one in Blender and just and then we have talked about like how the parts can function, how the scale is going to be, which are currently massive in here, and this we have made some changes afterwards. And this was another prop that we made for the command center. This thing over here is going to be, well, like this just happened like very spontaneously, which we are going to change the design of this immensely, and we can just go and just make it like a hero prop that we are going to use in the gameplay. This right here. This is going to be our main prop for like for the menus and like how things are going to work, and like which it's something like this gives us some information about like about the gameplay, and if we will have, it's something like that can communicate with us in the environment, and we can just play around with it. If you have anything to add, Erkan, you can just go ahead.
Your personal computer, in a sense,
Yeah.
or companion AI. It's kind of your, companion when it comes to managing your ship. It gives you guidance, helps you, to understand the ship mechanics, and also it's kind of the remote control for the ship. You can access a lot of different panels via that small computer. It flies next to you all the time, talks with you, gives you latest updates. It's kind of a cool, cute, techie gadget actually.
Mhm. And the most fundamental thing that's necessary for a hero prop, especially for the hero props, it's the silhouette. Like whatever prop that you have in your mind when you just think about a prop that you have seen in a movie, it's something that has a very memorable silhouette. And what we have tried to do here is to have this memorable silhouette, and we can just go with it, and like we can just think about like how we can break it apart and how we can just make it function in our game. And I really enjoyed like designing this prop actually. This is going to be our can I say main character, or can I just say her name?
You can say her name, but
Okay.
people wouldn't know actually. Most probably
Mm,
they wouldn't know who she is. But
yeah.
she is kind of the main character of the story. It's not you. I mean, you are the name of that character is Iset, and Iset is kind of the main character behind a lot of stuff. But your avatar is somebody else. Your heroes are also different. Iset is technically not your hero. It's kind of your goddess, kind of your mother. It's kind of a complicated actually because she revived you. Because you die at the beginning of the game. She revived you as a neo-human because you were human in the before you die, and now she re-engineered you once again. Not of course once again for the first time, and made you a new human. So that's why in the lore I said that character called as the mother because she is the mother of a lot of neo-humans. But she is also kind of a goddess, but not the mythical goddess uh, as possibly most of you would think when I say goddess. Is the meanings are quite different in our universe. So because she's massively wise, um, powerful, and she has engineered a lot of neo-humans. She is respected by almost all neo-humans out there. Because of all those factors, she is super important and kind of the main character of the grand story. But of course, you as a player have your own personal story as well. And I said most of the time, next to you, helping you, um, sometimes just observing, sometimes directly helping you. um, she's also watching you for her own reasons, but again, you are not playing Iset, and Iset, that character is not your regular hero, so you cannot command her like you command other, let's say, regular heroes. So as Emre said, we like to call her as the main character.
Yeah.
For those reasons.
And this is a prop that she actually uses in the environment. This is the main arch of the environment actually. This is the first thing that we will see when we enter the environment, and this has a very important function for the character as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like after making the final decisions on the props that we had, the assets that we had on the environment, we have decided to make like a line art for the environment after just placing them in the blender. And yeah, this is what we had in our final concept for this environment. And that also helped us like define our main vision for the art direction of the Osiris, of the interior of the Osiris, and the whole faction for the neo-humans. For the overall design language of the neo-humans, actually. After this, I'll move on to Osiris design. I will show you some process images. If you want to start, Erkan, you can just add something, or I can just start with the thumbnails and show them the process.
Okay, I just want to add, the concept you see is actually, it also will change, but we mostly keep, especially the props here, because we really like the props. The walls, the ceiling will change, but the props will remain the same. And the middle prop, as Emre said, it is the kind of the central main prop of that command center room, and it's kind of actually a liquid computer. I said that character, only she can enter into that computer, and it is her main communication center with her own ship. As I said, Osiris is actually her ship, not your ship. You are just commanding it, but she owns that ship. So she's also controlling most of the features of the ship. You are just commanding it, just giving the ship directions. But she's responsible from the ship's all the rest of the functions. So she's like the brain of the ship. We are just hands of the ship, if that metaphor would work. We can switch to Osiris, by the way, the general design of the ship itself, and then I will show you guys some hero designs. But first, let us stick with the Osiris topic.
Okay.
See the ship itself.
All right. So yeah, these are the very first sketches for the Osiris. Actually, you can also see the models like at the bottom. I actually use like very rough Blender models as well for this to establish their silhouettes. And also I also used some VR Gravity Sketch models for these. These were these? Yeah, these were before we designed CIC, I guess. Right? Were we?
Before the CIC. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, you can see like the overall exploration for the design language that we are looking for. This was one of those sketches. Like I spent like almost like maybe 15 minutes at most for each sketch, because like we were always exploring about like what we can produce. And like I was casually sketching for these like on my iPad and just came out with some ideas, and these actually took me like way less than 10 minutes actually to design each. And I think like our final design came from like from the combination of 9 and 10.
9 and 10. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I made like a very rough block out for the ship. Just to give you a reference for the scale, our guys here. And after this, I just dropped in some materials in there, put it into a scene and see like if how it will look, because like what matters most for creating a vehicle is to see it's in an environment. There was also like, if you guys are familiar with Seedmeat, he also uses like, for his vehicle designs, he always puts them in a scene, or like with a society, like around, like there you can see some people like interacting with each other, and you can see the whole mood of the environment and their fashion and stuff. Like it's always useful to put your prop or your vehicle in an environment and see how it can fit in there. And while I was like sketching around, I just came with this idea of like having this particles just coming out before it just jumps into the hyperspace. And like I think it actually just iterated from this over here. I just said like, why not having them like way like dynamic and way more interesting. Like this was going to be the hero part of this prop actually. Like there is this percentage of for the designs in general, not just specifically for this, but like even for the designs for Star Wars, and like think of like something else like Oblivion or some other video games. Like there's always a ratio for like having a design and like keeping the 10% of it like for the details and the main focus of the design, and the other 90% of it, for example, for the other things. In this one, we try to keep like 10% for the details, which goes to these particles over there, and the other 90% is just the whole massive look of the ship. If you want to add something about for this, you can add, Erkan.
Golden parts were our favorite. Unfortunately, they pose kind of a very difficult technical situation when it comes to making them in Unreal Engine. We are still struggling there to create that feeling that we wanted to achieve. And we are still investigating how we could achieve what we designed here in the engine itself. But I think in the end we will achieve this. We will achieve that feeling, that looks of these golden particles, because it's kind of the unique part of that ship. Of course, the shape, the silhouette is super important. It obviously carries out of elements from neo-humanish visual language. But those...
Erkan. Yeah, sorry. How does it like make a hyper jump? Like, what is the technology behind?
Kind of common, but we didn't specifically announce or describe how they go hyper jump. But in a nutshell, they are creating, they are bending space-time, creating their own kind of wormholes, and then jumping the exact location they want to jump. But neo-humans technology is quite different than humans technology. Humans using something else. They use some kind of relays. If you played Mass Effect, you would know there are some mass relays placed on some different parts of the universe where ships can use those relays as a hub to jump from one relay to another relay. So humans cannot specifically travel on any random location in the universe. They have to travel from one relay station to another relay station. But especially ISET and that ship, that's, by the way, one of kind, very high technology ship actually out there. It's the most advanced ship you can imagine. So it can travel anywhere it wants to go, because it can bend the space-time, which is a massive advantage over humans.
Yeah, I ask it because maybe if you kind of like have a solid, I mean, if you like, if you make it up in a solid way, then even it could help you like how it would look like, right? How it would, I mean, what kind of like particles it has, like what kind of effects it will have. Yeah, for
Yeah.
example, with the last Star Trek Discovery, they used the spore technology, like spores from like in nature. It's kind of like a very it's a long story, but they use something from nature. Like they say that in universe everything is connected, like in a forest. In a forest, like everything is connected with spores, with kind of like mushrooms kind of thing. So they in a way they had somehow like developed a spore technology which really fits the TV show, and they have that kind of a hyper jump effects. Anyway, so
Yeah, we are using quantum mechanics.
okay,
Especially I said using quantum mechanics to, she's kind of disintegrating her entire ship. That's why we like those small golden pieces, because they start to vibrate when the ship about to go about to jump, because actually the ship will slowly disintegrate to subatomic parts and then move to any location in the universe, because in quantum, let's say, universe, particles can be multiple places at the same time. That's a
okay.
scientific fact, by the way. So ISET is using that. Of course, I don't know how she's using, because she's a goddess. I have no idea how she would be using, but the technical explanation is this. But humans
Cool.
cannot
Yeah.
do this, by the way. Their technology is quite different.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, always, Hojam. Always feel free to please interrupt us, by the way.
Yes, please.
Um, so yeah, Emre, please continue.
Yeah, okay. So after, oh, sorry about that. I was actually going to show you this. Like it was already in your presentation, Erkan, but yeah, I just to show the final product that we had for the ship. Yeah, and from there we came to this, and this is the final final design that we had. This is the final product. Even the like even the particles, they have been modeled and everything like functions currently. Yeah, these were like hell. I can imagine like for the both animators and the 3D artists. I can still hear the echoes like of them like cursing me while they were working.
They are very creative on this. You should know
Yeah.
that.
I can imagine. So yeah, after this, we can just go and jump to the character designs. Yeah, you can go for it. Erkan, your turn.
I will now share my screen
Okay.
once again, and let me continue with characters. Since we talked about Iset, let me start with the main character, Iset. By the way, you see her name was Isis originally. I designed Iset or ISIS in 2016, but after that, that terror organization just popped up, and I had to change the name, unfortunately. But Isis, actually, the Greek name of Iset. She is using that Coptic goddess, the Egyptian goddess, and I mean her name as her meta identity. So Isis or Isis doesn't really make any difference. Actually, they are both referred to the same goddess. These are the very first line arts of the goddess. Obviously, we end up with this one, the middle one, but the other two were also cool. And then we switch to let's say encoding her colors And in the meantime, we started to add more details on her backside and on her front side. We started to discuss about how she should be, posing by default, and then we decided that she should be floating most of the time to emphasize that she's a goddess, right? That's one of the quickest ways to communicate that she's something different, something special. When you see somebody floating, that must be special, right? So um, this is the first iteration of our 3D model. Um, you see, we started with more humane, humanoid form, face, etc. We first wanted to place her crown because you see these are also acting as a crown, so another symbolic accessory to emphasize her role, her function in the story. These are not hairs, by the way. These are cords. We call them as hair cords, but they're actually cables, like kind of futuristic, super techy cables. She is using those cables to connect with her own ship and communicate with the ship. She can also use those cables to connect with any human, neo-human character, not human, of course, neo-human character. This is another iteration. Of course, there are plenty of steps in between. I'm just showing you guys some steps. You see now her face is looking much more synthetic because at the same time we wanted to make neo-humans look a bit different than humans. That's why neo-human faces are always having some differences or some marks, some maybe scar-like lines on their faces to differentiate them between regular standard humans. You also see she has another eye here. That's her third eye. She uses that eye to kind of collect information, kind of time broadcasting message, time. It's kind of her companion, kind of her secondary brain. But we, of course, don't know the full detail of her features. Since she's a goddess, she has a lot of weird technologies we still can't understand anything about. Um, as you see, we have now a lot of details already added to the model. This is the last step. You see, we also have now the colors. And deciding about the colors was also a very important step when it comes to designing a character, because colors also communicating some information, right? They are also communicating some meaning to your players. So you should be picking colors carefully. We didn't pick those colors because we like those colors. Actually, we picked those colors to, give some meaning, some sensation to the players when they look at that character. Um, these blacks, these dark bluish colors, and the purple and bright sky blue, they are all serving or giving some messages. The golden part of her crown, the black parts, those triangle shapes, they are kind of representing her Coptic Egyptian roots. You see that we also have a lot of triangles here. Also one triangle-ish form here, right? They are all giving you some sense that she belongs to Egyptians, kind of. These epaulets, they also like signifying her once again importance. She's like a general, right? With her crown, with her epaulets, she's like a high, high ranked officer. Those purplish colors always represent in our lore our magic-like energy. We also have some kind of, it's of course not magic, by the way, some kind of spatial energy, which only accessible by neo-humans and some infested characters. She's also can wield plenty of that energy, so that's why she's glowing with that energy. That's why we picked those colors. You see, there are tons of small details that dictates in the end who she is, like what kind of character she is. Just one glance of that character should give you some fair idea about her rank in the universe, her importance, her strengths, her functionality, her personality. These are all important. We also, as you see, played with different color teams here. Even more color keys can be found here. For example, when Iset enters combat, by default she wields reddish skin, even though her default color skin is something like this, as you see. We wanted to go this only when she is about to enter combat, as in red is obviously a warning color. But of course, once again, players will be able to customize their characters. We are talking about default looks of those characters most of the time. Other variations, as you see, but these three are they were our main favorites. We decided to go with that one as the default color theme, and that one as the default combat color theme, actually. And this is our high poly 3D model. Of course, it needs low poly final 3D render. It needs some normal maps in order to show her additional details. But that was the last step for her 3D low poly model. And this is also, sorry, let me open this with VLC. This is also kind of a surprise. We are also preparing a figure, a hand-painted figure for that character, for all heroes, by the way, not just for Iset. We are working with a very talented Turkish miniature artist. He is an epic guy, and he can, he's amazingly good at this. We needed to have some super realistic, super cool, high quality figures, and we are lucky that we could find him. Right now we are preparing her 3D prints, and then those 3D prints will be hand painted by one that artist I mentioned. His name is Tubay, by the way, and Tubay will be coloring those figures, and those figures will be available for Kickstarter backers. Of course, we can only have very limited amount of those figures, but again, why we are doing this? Because we want to create an IP, remember? Because if you want to create an IP, you want to think about these details as well, not just their functions in the gameplay. You also need to think about all these seemingly secondary details. For most of the games, these are bonus stuff, right? But for us, if you want to create, if you want to turn Angelic into an IP, these are kind of must-haves, actually, not just bonus stuff. What else I got here? Okay, these are all for Iset. Daeva, another character. This is the first concept, I believe. You see, when you look at that concept, you should be immediately understand her personality, her functions. She's obviously some kind of a magic user. She's offensive. She's angry, dangerous, kind of old, but maybe not because of her age. Maybe that old looking atmosphere coming from her wisdom. She's kind of super self-confident, aggressive. All these design messages should be communicated instantly, because they are heroes, and those heroes will be, when you see them on the battlefield for the first time, of course you can't expect people to read all the stories about all the possible characters they can see in the game, and can quickly understand when they see somebody on the field, can quickly understand their functions, their whatever. So that's how you actually do this. For all successful games, these visual communication tricks are super important. So when you see her, you wouldn't expect her to be a melee fighter, right? She's obviously some kind of an sorceress or something like that. So this is the first concept. Before that, this is one of the last one. As you see, we also add the cape to boost her boss-like presence, because she's kind of a very important character in the lore and in the game. So we wanted to add a cape to enhance her feeling. This is the last final concept art. Because, by the way, she's also an assassin, and that cape and cloak also enhance that assassinish function of that character. This is the in-game render prepared by our art director. This is directly from Unreal Engine. We didn't add anything on Photoshop. It's just the pure gameplay view. As you see, we achieved really solid visual quality in the project. And this is a render from, what was that?
Marmoset.
Marmoset, yes, sorry. This is the Marmoset render. This is the Unreal Engine render. You see they are super close in terms of quality. And of course, this is high poly model. This is low poly in-game model. And even despite we had to use obviously the low poly model, the visual quality is quite close with the high poly render, as you see here. Another character, last one, Selene. You remember that character from the poster, from the prom art I showed you a couple of minutes ago. This is actually, that character design is actually not just for that hero I mentioned, Selene, her name. It's actually for all the second generation neo-humans. Second generation neo-humans were all identical. They look like robots. And then they started to gain their own personal identity, let's say, back. And then they started to inherit or implement holographic faces. This is, again, in-game render, all low poly game model I'm showing right now. They're all from our game engine. This is concept art, by the way. These are game renders. Again, a generic second generation neo-human character. Of course, moving from that, we obviously knew that we need to add some personality to that character. So because of her backstory, she's a medic, by the way, because of her gameplay function and her personality, her backstory, in the end we end up with this. We added holographic wings, we added a holographic face. You see she looks a bit innocent, much different than the sorceress character I just showed you guys, Daeva, much different than Iset, that goddess. When you look at that character, you see she's a good character. She's innocent. She's not offensive. She always has a sad, concerned look on her face. Even those details are super important, as you see. Let me show you other screenshots.
Also,
Again,
yep. Sorry. Also, for the face design, I think we got the face design from the promo art, right?
Yep.
We have made the
That's
decision.
right.
Yeah, it was like, it's not always like there isn't always like a limitation for the workflow. It's always sometimes it just goes very organic, and you have to make some organic decisions while designing a character or prop or something. Like sometimes you have to make some decisions on the go.
Mhm. And you see, we after these designs, we also achieved a very similar quality in game. This is a direct game in-game screenshot from our combat. If you watch the vlog, you also possibly saw that character. We had a very limited amount of characters while we were recording the first vlog, but the next vlog will, not maybe the next one, but soon we will be introducing additional heroes in the combat directly. So as you see, the almost the same visual quality we achieved in the game, in the actual game. These are again marmoset renders, but in that one was marmoset render. This is her in-game look. And the screenshot, you see this. You also saw her marmoset renders 2 minutes ago, and now you are seeing her in-game screenshot. This again from one of our cinematics. And the in-game screenshot. These are all from our combat. This is again from Unreal Engine, not directly from the combat itself, but from the ship itself. From the again, that's an in-game render, but not a screenshot from combat. That's a render from the ship itself. But technically, it's again an in-game screenshot. So, as I said, these marmoset renders were like our visual quality bar that we set as a goal, and then we are super happy that we almost, let's say, 97% achieved that marmoset render quality in the game. Especially when you look at this, obviously the details are quite high and they are quite close to high poly marmoset renders. I think that's it. Yep, I also showed all these three characters here. I also showed all the screenshots. Okay, if Emre, if you don't have anything to add, I think we are good to continue with questions. If you have
Yeah,
any
we
questions, of course.
We can go with questions.
Actually, we have already a couple of questions. Thank you for the detailed presentation of yours. I will start.
Welcome.
Yeah, I will start with the really fast one, and I guess it's for. I guess everybody wonder about that. They said approximately how how much will game be available for sale? Okay, they're asking the price.
Price. Yep. Obviously, it's not. I mean, we are not targeting AAA price tag. So we are not. We don't want to go something like $59. But it depends on multiple factors. For example, it depends on our publisher. And but if it would be up to us, we would go, something in between AAA to indie, which might be $34 or so. So because we consider ourselves technically a AA game, not a AAA game, even though we are chasing AAA quality in terms of visual stuff, in terms of narrative stuff, in terms of gameplay length. But again, we want to be a bit cautious on that aspect, and we don't want to overpromise. So since we are targeting AA, our price tag will be something like common AA game price tag within that range. I mean,
Okay,
and also we will have a special pricing for Turkey, obviously.
that is nice. I guess this is what we are would like to hear. Otherwise, things are getting really hard to obtain. Okay, another question. This is a bit long one. Will the different races you bring in Angelic have special powers, and do you have a plan to add their own worlds? cultural elements, foods, relics to the game in some way?
For the first part of the question, yes, obviously they have their own unique advantages and disadvantages. For example, the infested, they can regenerate super fast, and they can also access. I mean, not all of them, but some of them can use that magic-like power. For example, humans cannot wield that magic-like power, so for a human character, it's out of the question. But for neo-humans, again, some of them, and for the infested, they can be, let's say, magic casters or wielders. And for the infested specifically, they can regenerate every turn in the combat. Uh, for neo-humans, for example, their technology is far more advanced than humans, but their numbers are far less than humans in terms of population. Um, Humans, for example, can um, when you face against a human army, their numbers would be always a problem. That's why actually we as that team actually tries to be as stealth as possible, because especially when you have ISET, which is kind of the number one target for the corporations. They really hate that character. You cannot, announce that you are here and you're about to do some stuff. That's why Osiris, that ship, is a stealthy ship. Most of the time, you are trying to finish your job as quickly as possible. So most of our missions are hit and run operations. So of all those lore-wise details, elements are impacting the game, the gameplay, combat design, hero functions, advantages, and disadvantages heavily. For the second part of the question, um, I cannot, promise that we can add their planets because, for example, Infested is kind of a different faction. They don't have any kind of planet. They just, infest a planet super fast. But technically, that planet belonged to somebody else, maybe humans, maybe no humans. But again, we will have different missions. We will have missions which would be based on an infested world. We would have missions which would be based on human motherships that you would be, going in, doing some stuff as quickly as possible, kind of invading, and then retreating after you acquire what you want to acquire in the first place. So we definitely want to show all different factions and their atmosphere, but we cannot promise. For example, you would be spending a lot of time on Earth, because that would kind of mean, we now need to create something like Assassin's Creed, an open world massive game that's honestly beyond our capabilities. Even if somebody gives us, $100 million or so, we cannot do this most probably, because unlike Ubisoft, we don't have all those established pipelines, tools, etc. So we want to be, stay as smart as possible. The game will introduce you a lot of cool stuff, but on that point, I want to be kind of cautious when it comes to promising contents, especially contents, because any kind of word that comes out of our mouths would be super dangerous. People would remember and would ask why we don't have these features in the full game, because it all depends our budget and schedule time. But yes, we want to show you guys as much content as possible, especially to emphasize their unique points, the factions' unique points.
Okay, thank you for this
Welcome.
answer. And another question, another a bit long one. They said, you said that the companions have preferences. Do they say like I want to work with this character? I don't like
Yep.
this character. Don't deploy me with him or her. I am comfortable with this weapon, etc. I mean, do they say going to? I mean, are they going to have an options like in a standard RPG, CRPG games? Maybe sometimes they do not like their acting. They don't want to be together in the same party.
Yeah, precisely. And let me tell you this: one of those characters killed you, your lover, and your best friend, and you have to work with that character. And literally, your lover and your best friend, I mean, literally hates that character, and for some reason I cannot explain at that moment, you would be forced to live with that character in the same ship and work with that character. And also, infested characters are quite dangerous to human characters because they can infest them. And so deploying both of them at the same time might be risky. And also, some characters are their preferences are quite different than other characters. For example, for Selene, even though she's a new human character, she don't like unnecessary violence. Uh, but Daiwa, for example, she literally hates all humans. So for her, the more human you kill, the better. For Selena, of course, it's not the best way to go. For your human companions, of course, killing humans is not a good way, right? So there are tons of conflicting decisions you will have to make. And unfortunately, the hardest part for Angelic would be, I mean, for you would be keeping all those super talented heroes, intact and on your ship continuously. So yes, that's kind of a pretty common BioWare-ish RPG mechanics we have actually.
Okay, thank you again. So I might ask a personal question, maybe like by myself. Like, how about the combat system? Do you have any data with you? I mean, can you share about the combat system, or if it's going to happen, how it's going to happen?
You can of course watch our vlog, which extensively shows the combat itself. I'm checking my computer. This is not my workstation. It's just my laptop.
Uh,
I'm not sure if I have the design documents here.
Some
Yeah,
info.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
I might ask like whether it's going to be more like a XCOM-ish turn-based combat system, or more like a GURPS system with the action points, or what kind of base system it's going to use.
actually it's quite different. I mean,
Okay.
XCOM is quite a close example, but again, our gameplay mechanics are quite different. I mean, if you played XCOM, it would take maybe 2 minutes for you to adapt
Okay.
Angelic because it's quite close, but within that 2 minutes, you would also understand it's quite a different game as well. So that's what we tried to achieve in the first place. We wanted to make a combat which is quite familiar for turn-based game players, but also we wanted to achieve something unique that they would instantly understand. It's also not the same. It also has its own unique elements. So that's what we tried to achieve, and I think we also achieved this already. But please just go ahead and watch our combat footages. You would understand the differences quickly.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. One other question, and I guess it might be the last one, if Güven Hocam do not add anything. So the question is, how did you manage to bring together 40 international people? I think they are convinced when you explain the project. Smile. Can you briefly talk about the story of the team?
Surprise for all of us. We didn't expect to hit 40 people. We didn't expect to be here, obviously, and honestly, it's beyond our wildest expectations. The most optimum, the most positive, optimistic expectations. I think it happened partly because of my own network. I'm in this industry for almost 20 years. Thankfully, I made a lot of friends, and that COVID situation, we started Angelic project. I mean, the last attempt in this year in early April. That was the darkest days of that year of this year because the world was literally stood still. Everybody was in panic mode. The companies were laying off people. So we were uh, born in kind of a storm, and that's actually we actually turned this into our advantage because a lot of people either laid off or started to work from their homes, so they got some additional time for themselves. And apart from that, thanks to my network, I was able to reach a lot of different people around the world, and that's the first, I guess, explanation. The second explanation is obviously project itself, because whenever I introduce the project to people, they instantly fell in love with the project. So the project itself kind of convinced people. My network was just kind of a short list, but of course, without Angelic, I wouldn't be able to convince those 40 people to, for any kind of random project. So the answer is actually my network, COVID-19 situation, and its unique. Let's say, it's ugly to say advantages, but it was kind of an lucky situation for us, and the project itself, the project's beauty. That's how we assembled those people. And remember, we don't have any investors, we don't have any publishers yet. Even though we are talking with really big guys, we haven't signed any kind of agreement. So we literally went that far without almost zero money. It's a passion project. It's still a AAA looking passion project, which is maybe by that because of that fact, which is kind of an historic project as well, in my opinion. I haven't read anything like that in the past from our industry. If we achieve this, that would be probably an epic story, especially the beginning part of the story would be kind of weird and epic.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So far so good, and we have out of questions. And Güveneceğim, maybe you
I-
would like to
yeah,
add
I
some.
guess. Yeah, I guess the next step will be the Kickstarter campaign,
Uh,
right? And
Possibly.
it's in February,
Mhm.
as like next year February,
Yep,
right?
early February. Hmm.
Okay, cool. I just want to say that also I really want to have an art book of the project, because I watch all those slides, and yeah, this week I was at the library of our university, Bahçeşehir University, and I ordered a lot of art books for the students, and somehow all of them are at the library. So interestingly, so anyway, I just imagined the art book of this project in our library. So, or I think it could be a good Kickstarter, a
Yeah,
stretch
that was
goal,
awesome. Mhm.
definitely. So yeah, so it's even if this project is like born in a storm, I think like it has a lot of potential, and I think
Thank
it's
you.
like yeah, surely it's easy to talk as an, let's say, an outsider, but I think it goes really well. It's like the whole process is really like very dynamic, very attractive. I think the community is also growing growing bigger every day, and probably with the Kickstarter, the community will be ready to support the project. So maybe any surprises for the Christmas, for the New Year? Any kind of a promo do you have on mind?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, we wanted to. We are still working on that. We want to finish the vertical slice for our publishers and
Mhm.
for the influencers mainly. We are not going to distribute it to everybody, unfortunately, but we want to
Sure.
distribute it to influencers, and of course, we'll be showing a lot of video footage from the vertical slice. And on that vertical slice, we just showed the combat and some concepts so far. But we also be showing with the vertical slice the RPG elements of the game, the dialogues, the ship itself, the interior parts of the ship. We're also showing more and new combat footages, and we will be showing you some hero customizations as well. We are all, for a while working on this, so our biggest surprise, hopefully, would be this, and we want to launch it before Christmas.
Great. Wow. Great. Do we have any more questions on Twitch or on Discord?
No, I guess we do not have any. I can see any.
Okay, and it's almost like 2 hours. thank you for your time, both Emre and Erkan. It was a very I think it was a very good let's say lesson, like full of tips and tricks, full of like good stuff, really. So thank you, and also good luck. I think you have a lot of experience, but still, like with every project, you also need luck at some point.
Definitely.
Definitely. But I think you won't need it that much, at least.
Hopefully, I mean, yeah, the
Hopefully.
luck is kind of important ingredient to
Yeah,
success.
I guess the timing, maybe, because yeah, just like you said, Turkey is like very dynamic in that sense. Like we are we like I don't know, every year or like every season, I guess, like it's not anymore every year. Like with every season, we have something new.
Let's say
So
I'm trying to find a friendly term for it. Let's say adventures. That
There are
yeah, adventures.
excitements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at it from the bright side,
Yeah.
that's your skin thicker actually.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you again, and thanks everyone who is watching or who is in this channel, who were in this channel and joined us tonight. So yeah, hope to see you next week or the other week with another topic, another team, and sharing their experiences. We have a good list, right, Arturo? We have a very
Yes.
good list of upcoming teams and people. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for all
So-
your contributions. Yes, it was amazing.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.